welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily enabling platform for small businesses. Over the past 7 years, we've understood what matters the most to you, the entrepreneur. And in year 8, we're taking head-on 2 of your most pressing concerns, that of funding and mentoring. I'm Sananda Jayaseelan. Tonight on Big Speak, an exclusive conversation with the MD of Maersk, Steve Felder, to talk to him really about why they're so excited about the shipping and logistics market here in the country, what he has to say about how technology is changing the way they're doing business here, and also about the facility in Bengaluru for startups. Listen. Steve, thanks for taking the time to speak to us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. And it's always exciting to speak to someone who's so closely involved with what is happening when it comes to the macro picture for small businesses. And I want to start with that macro picture and talk about your journey at Maersk. You serve over 130 countries now. But over the past many years, you're entering newer and newer markets. And I just want to get a sense from you in terms of what that journey has been like. Maybe one or two of those key highlights that you can kick this interview off with.
Thanks, Sunanda. I think it's a very exciting journey actually to be in a truly global industry. And what we do every day connects importers and exporters with markets around the world. It creates new markets and it basically creates wealth and prosperity around the world.
Sure.
I think in this part of the world, what's been interesting the last few years as we've expanded around the region is we've launched a new service from Colombo to Malé in the Maldives, and we've opened an office in the Maldives.
Okay.
We've opened an office in Kathmandu in Nepal, where the market has actually doubled within the last 5 years.
Sure.
And we run trains almost every single day from Vizag on the east coast of India to Kathmandu. And we also serve Kathmandu from Kolkata. We've also moved from Chennai port to Ennore port, which is slightly further north, which is a new deep water port, which will serve the needs of the market for many years going forward, provides very good connectivity to markets such as Bangalore and Hyderabad. And we were the first, we took pleasure actually in being the first shipping line to move containers along the Ganga from Varanasi to Kolkata, and later also on inland waterways from Kochi to Kottayam.
Okay.
So we've been working quite hard to expand to serve the needs of our customers in South Asia.
You overlook the South Asia region for Maersk. Why, perhaps, is India looking exciting for you?
India is I think one of the most exciting markets today if you look at the global picture.
Sure.
It's already overtaken France as the 6th largest economy. It will become the 3rd largest economy by 2030. The population will overtake China also by that stage. And I think we're seeing growth from a consumption and a production point of view.
Sure.
We're seeing a growing base of manufacturing. We're seeing also crores of new consumers coming into the market every year. And this market truly represents one with both scale and growth. And I think that's what makes it exciting.
Okay.
We also see the needs of consumers changing. We see a growing middle class, which of course also drives the nature of imports that we do. We see new markets opening up around the world for India to trade with. And that of course is really, for us, it's very energizing to be part of that journey.
For someone who's in the industry that you are, I want to talk about the challenges that you're facing in India. Let's talk about the overall, probably some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing. And then I want to break it down further and talk about, maybe what needs to be done there.
Sure. First of all, one has to recognize that with growth that we see in India, 6 to 8% economic growth every year, of course there are bound to be challenges for infrastructure to catch up. Having said that, I think what we've seen a lot of infrastructure development in the port network. 10 years ago, ports were quite congested, and that was really a pain point for customers in India.
Sure.
That has now changed, and with a few exceptions, there's generally ample port capacity now along the west coast and the east coast.
Sure.
What we see, the challenge has actually shifted to the hinterland. And 69% of Indians live in hinterland markets.
Absolutely.
The hinterland markets are growing faster than the coastal markets. So the focus should really be on how do we effectively connect the hinterland markets with the coast in order to enable cost-effective and efficient imports and exports. We've seen the GST implementation. Obviously, there was a period of pain. Once it's settled down, trucks are now more productive because they don't have to go through the border checkpoints. So we see that utilization is improving in that sense. Paperwork has reduced as a result, and that means that cost has reduced. However, the cost of logistics in India is 14% as a percentage of GDP, which compares to 10% as the global average. So there's still quite some way to go.
Sure.
So we would like to see more investment in infrastructure, quicker investment in infrastructure, a very diligent focus on hinterland coast connectivity. We'd like to see more rail capacity, more road, let's say a broader road network. And at the same time, we want to see investments in digitization.
Sure. Okay, I will come back and talk about digitization because you're very actively involved as far as the integration of technology is concerned with your business. But let's talk about the fact that government after government has promised that they're going to build these, sort of the hub and spoke model when it comes to the logistics space here in India. That that hasn't taken off, but still had a lot of challenges. Are you disappointed? Do you want to see more there?
We always want to see more, but I must say we are starting to see it now. So we have this domestic freight corridor that's being developed connecting North and West India with certain hubs along the route. That will help to really change the landscape, at least in the western part of India, for logistics. So we are starting to see that being developed, and certain parts of it, we're starting to see the pieces come together. There's still a few years before we really expect it to take off, but that will help as well. That will include initiatives such as multimodal logistics parks along the way. That will include initiatives such as double-stack trains running more regularly with more capacity. There's also an intention or an ambition by government to create a similar corridor on the East Coast, or connecting the East Coast with North India as well. So that we are starting to see that with the Sagamala, with Bharatmala, with all these mega initiatives, it is, we are starting to see progress, and in some cases fairly significant progress.
So if there are one or two key insights you can give about the domestic market to our viewers, what would it be?
For us, we see with the growing middle class, consumer tastes and preferences are probably going to change. And I think that is something that we obviously need to be aware of, and we need to be able to respond to that, because that will create opportunities for importers and for local producers as well. On the export side, I think we see the basket also changing. So for example, we see more and more value-added goods being exported, not just commodities. And I think that is also something that is evolving with the Make in India initiative. We'd like to see more, but certainly we are seeing some sort of movement there as well.
Sure. You were talking about the hinterlands, and my question to you is perhaps how different, the transportation demands are outside of the metros, how you are addressing that. And perhaps whether that's so very different from what you're seeing happening in other countries as well. Is that divide huge? Is that something you want to tell our viewers?
Well, India is just so spread out geographically, and it's also interesting from a value chain point of view. It could cost easily more to move a container from Punjab to a Gujarati port than to ship that container on the water from Gujarat into the Middle East, for example. So in the value chain, dal mein kuch kala hai. Something's not right, and that needs to be addressed over time, because the challenge will be to bring down the cost of inland logistics.
I want to talk about also what you're doing when it comes to technology, and that perhaps is one of the things that's becoming extremely crucial no matter what industry you're in. And the shipping industry and the transportation industry is also being impacted. First, do you think that technology perhaps is the answer to some of these challenges that we've been talking about for your industry?
We're still in the business of transporting physical goods, and which cannot be substituted by technology. But technology certainly can help to enable the processes, make it easier for our customers, make it easier for us to interface with our customers and amongst one another internally within the company, and reduce cost, reduce handling time, reduce handoff points, and let's say promote better data quality across the board. So we see some tremendous opportunities there. We've been on a journey, and a couple of examples. Over the last 15 years, we've been working on our tech strategy, and today 90% of our quotes are coming from our website, Maersk.com. That was 0% 3 years ago.
Okay.
Almost all of our bookings are coming in through a digital platform. Almost all of our shipping instructions are submitted through a digital platform.
Sure.
In India, 55% of our payments are coming through some sort of digital payment platform.
Okay.
Tracking is fully digital. And we've made great innovations. I would say what's been very interesting is in the reefer space, the refrigerated cargo, where we've introduced a product called remote container management, where customers can, at the drop of a hat, at any time during the day or night, see the ventilation, the temperature control, and airflow within a container remotely.
Sure.
And that, of course, helps to safeguard the freshness of the cargo.
Okay. And you have a facility in Bangalore which is dedicated to working on technology.
Yes, and that's another dimension. That's also been a very interesting journey. So we set up a digital center in Bangalore, which it's a global business. It's a global center. We have around 300 software engineers in the center, and they are helping to transform our business. They're helping to transform our systems, to challenge the status quo, and to help us to develop the next level of systems in our business.
Time for a very quick break on the show. Much more with Maersk on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight on Big Speak, an expert view on the shipping and logistics market with Maersk. Steve, just before we slipped into the break, we were talking about the quality of talent which is available to most companies, and everyone we talk to say they're unable to find the kind of qualified talent that they need for their businesses. But you're saying that you are doing work out of Bangalore for your global business. So what has really been your experience in terms of finding that talent that you need?
Well, I would first say that actually we managed to find a lot of talent in India.
Okay.
So we employ more Indians than any other nationality in the world, more than 15,000 Indians.
Okay.
And that's both at sea and ashore. And so I think the talent for us hasn't generally been an issue. On the contrary, in Bangalore, I think it presents a very specific value proposition. Bangalore has positioned itself as a real hub for tech and for startups, and we're trying to leverage that knowledge and that ecosystem as well. So the software center, the digital center that we formed in Bangalore is really it enables us to take advantage and leverage that ecosystem that's been developed for our global business.
Okay, how's your experience been different perhaps when it comes to hiring this talent?
For us, I think it's fantastic. I think people are highly qualified. We have so many people in our business, for example, with postgraduate degrees. We have people that are willing to try different roles.
Sure.
And so actually we consider ourselves in our global business, India as a net exporter of talent.
Okay, all right. One other thing that you're doing out of your center in Bangalore is Oceanpro, which I understand works as a startup of sorts, mentoring other startups. How does that work?
So it's a startup accelerator.
Okay.
And what we do is we take real business issues that we want to work on going forward for the future, or we want to design for the future. And we give it to startups, and we work with startups which we partially fund for a 4-month period, and they have to come up with something that's going to be substantial that we can move forward with. So it helps us to tap into that knowledge, it helps us to tap into the startup ecosystem, and it helps us really to deal with future issues such as AI, robotics, Internet of Things, etc.
Why is that important? Why is that model for you important?
Well, I think today in this fourth industrial revolution, every business has to have some sort of a digital strategy. It's no longer optional. What's optional is really the speed and scale of it.
Sure.
And of course, if you look at how the world is changing, how our customers are changing, and how our industry is changing, it's of course a natural consequence that we need to be at the forefront of that, also as the market leaders.
Okay.
For example, even in the external environment, we formed a joint venture with IBM to launch a product called TradeLens, which connects documents from around the world audited by blockchain technology as an audit trail.
Okay.
When I was based in Kenya, we followed a container of avocados from Kenya to Europe, and we found that within that one shipment there were 30 different companies or actors involved. There were more than 70 different types of documents, and there were more than 200 communication interactions. Of course, there's got to be a way to do that better. Okay. So we formed this joint venture with IBM, and of course, who better to partner with than a company like that? And this TradeLens product is really taking off because what it does is, in a cloud-based format, it gives everyone along the value chain in a secure way access to the data. Okay. It reduces the documentation flow, it reduces the need for double handling, it improves the velocity as well.
In fact, I was reading a report by your global CEO who said he wants to ensure that technology in your industry should be as easy. I mean, doing businesses in your industry using technology should be as easy as buying an airplane ticket.
Yes. And
just flying anywhere that you want to. Are we anywhere close to that yet?
I think we still have some way to go. Okay. It requires a lot of process re-engineering. It requires really a lot of pioneering because in a way we're blazing a new trail. And this industry typically has been fairly paper heavy. Sure. It has been fairly conservative, and it is a very traditional industry. So we obviously have to change that paradigm through action.
Okay, so of the 29,000 customers that we were talking about that you have in India...
Of course, I know them all by name.
You do? Wow, okay, then you have an amazing memory, I should say. My question is, what percentage of them perhaps are comprised of small businesses?
So today, we serve small businesses in two ways. Either directly, and that would be a fairly small percentage. The majority of small businesses that we serve today, we work through a freight forwarder who could bring, let's say, the various products together and make it easier for the small business to deal with shipping lines directly. That is changing, and we have the ambition, we've stated the ambition to become the global integrator of container logistics, which means that we want to simplify and connect our customers' supply chains so that customers can deal with one party, being us. They can deal with us for shipping, they can deal with us for inland transport, for trade finance, for various other documentation processes such as customs house brokerage and so forth, so that customers in a way have one throat to choke, as we put it. Okay. So that if something happens, they know who to come to, or they have one person to go to, one point of contact.
Sure.
And I think for SMEs particularly, when you're running a small business, shipping and logistics is generally not your core business. It's ancillary to your business. So what we provide as a value proposition for an end-to-end value proposition is that customers, especially small businesses, can work with us. They have one party to deal with for all their supply chain needs, and therefore they kind of outsource the hassle to us. Sure. They outsource the complexity to us. Sure. And we can put together a variety of products, bundle products as they need it, depending on their particular needs and requirements.
So the biggest benefit, if I can call it that businesses like yours, that you specifically bring to small businesses, is the fact that they have access to this global market now through a global major like yours.
Yes, and I think it's important because if a small business wants to expand beyond the domestic markets, they'll need some sort of import or export solution, and they want to make it as easy as possible so they don't have to deal with so many different parties. They can access markets with a fair amount of confidence. Sure. And I think that with our global network, in terms of the offices that we have around the world, in terms of the ports that we serve around the world, I think it's truly incomparable in terms of what we're able to offer smaller businesses in order to help them to access these markets.
Okay, I was asking you earlier about the insights as far as the domestic market is concerned for our viewers, and one thing that is crucial and a lot of businesses tell us is important for operating in a country like India is that you are able to speak in multiple local languages, and that becomes crucial. Has that proven, correct for you as well, true for you as well? Okay.
I think it depends on the customer's need and requirement. Some customers will prefer to speak English, which you could say is largely the language of international trade. However, there are some, customers that prefer to speak a local language, and we can cater for that. In India alone, we have 27 offices. And of course, within those offices, they would speak the languages of the state or of the city or of the location.
Sure.
So we're able to cater to that as well. The technology, of course, in terms of the booking technology and the website and so forth, that's available 24 hours.
Sure.
But we do have, of course, colleagues working in various offices around the country.
Okay, let's end this conversation by talking about the outlook for global growth. We're, of course, at a time when you have all of these macroeconomic factors that are happening, Brexit, etc. In India as well, we've seen a lot of changes happening, particularly with the new government elections, etc. OECD has said it has a very optimistic outlook for the Asian region. How are you viewing things? What next for you? How excited are you about the rest of 2019?
Well, I think on a global level, we expect the containerized shipping market to still grow at a moderate pace of 3 to 4%. And in terms of the macroeconomics, I think it's always a little bit of a yin and a yang because, for example, there'll be trade tensions in one market, there'll be trade agreements that are new in nature in another market. Sure. So, and that's also what having a global footprint enables us to do is to, of course, hedge those types of macro risks. For the local market in South Asia specifically, we expect the market to grow around 8%, 7 to 8% this year in imports and exports combined, which of course is well above the global average. Okay, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show with us. Thanks, Ananda. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, completely out of time on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. Our contact details up in just a second to get in touch. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.